Hi, welcome to Batshit Crazy. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
How you doing, Dylan?
I am doing wonderful.
You're doing wonderful?
Yeah.
So you're well.
I don't talk like that, dude.
One day we are going to sit down and have an English lesson, Dylan.
We're going to have a grammatical discussion.
We are.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised your mother, an avid reader, allows you to speak so inarticulately.
Well, you know what? I can speak very articulately, non-inarticulately, but I choose not to.
Well, irregardless, Dylan.
Irregardless of those facts, here we go.
Today we're going to be talking about the Lost Colony. Dylan, do you remember when you were first exposed to this mystery?
Yes, early on in my school career, and I found it very interesting. And I was amazed by the mystery, as we were talking about earlier. And I don't think the other people around me were as amazed as I was, the other students.
Well, we live in North Carolina, and I'm not sure about today, but when we were in school like 100 years ago, part of the curriculum was in the 4th grade, you learned about North Carolina history. So that was the first introduction I had to the story of the Lost Colony. And you're right, Dylan. I was very intrigued by the story. I think most of the other kids in the class were just like, whatevs. So I have this theory that if you were a young child, you heard about the Lost Colony, it kind of grabbed you, then you're probably the type of person who listens to Batshit Crazy and loves all the conspiracy theories.
I think that's a sound theory.
Right?
Honestly, because, I mean, you know, back then you didn't have all these other avenues for media or ideas or, thoughts. And so, we really, as
you had to listen to that Coast to Coast radio show.
Well, yeah.
If you wanted to learn about aliens or something weird and strange.
Yeah, I was never exposed to that early on. I never knew about that till later in life. But we didn't have a lot of stimulus as far as, hearing something you don't, something totally foreign to you. You know what I mean?
Well, right. We weren't scrolling TikTok to learn about the Lost Colony.
And so sometimes something in school would grab my attention, and then I would try to learn more. But you'd literally have to go to if you had a rich friend who had a set of encyclopedias at his house.
Yeah.
Right? The Encyclopedia Britannica.
My grandparents had the full set.
Oh, my gosh. Or you went to the library.
I remember when my grandparents passed away, it's probably been more than a decade ago, my relatives were like, hey, do you want this set of encyclopedias? And they were from like the 70s, probably like when my dad was in school.
Oh, my gosh.
They weighed probably 8,000 tons, right? Yeah. And were so old. And they were like, do you want these? Because I was like known to sit and read the encyclopedia as a kid because I was a nerd. But I was like, no, I don't. What am I going to do? I have the internet now.
Yeah, let me go buy
I have this encyclopedia device. It's called a phone. I just look it up, right?
Let me go buy an 8-foot-tall shelf to put my encyclopedias on.
Yeah, what am I going to move these by myself? I don't think so.
All right, so let's get into the story. It has always fascinated me, and I've always wondered what really happened.
Well, hopefully some of our listeners are familiar and will be interested in learning our perspective of this. But if you've not heard of the Lost Colony, you're in for a treat. In 1587, a new colony consisting of about 112 people, including women and children, led by Sir Walter Raleigh and Governor John White, set sail from British soil to find suitable land and a new place for settlement on Roanoke Island. The colony was only made up of families with no military backup whatsoever. Now, Dylan, before we go any further, I must ask, would you be willing to gather your family, everything you own, pack it in a little trunk, board a ship, knowing you'll be sailing across a huge ocean for some months to land in a territory that is brand new, somewhat undiscovered, to start a new life?
Well, I don't know if I could do that, honestly. And I would say it definitely takes a certain type of individual or family to do this. I would say some were adventurous, maybe looking for a new life, and dare I say some were doing this out of an act of desperation of sorts. Maybe they have absolutely nothing here, and then maybe they hope for better there for their family. And one thing I think we have to remember is you don't pull up to some fancy dock with, intake and buildings and all the stuff you need. You pull up to raw coastline.
We're not mooring to a pier is what you're saying?
Yeah, no, you're pulling up to raw coastline The North Carolina coast with its outer banks and all that, I'm sure could be
The
dangerous.
graveyard of the Atlantic
Yeah.
has that nickname for a reason.
So yeah, certainly it takes a. Do you think you would have this in your in your personality?
I think so. But I mean, I think it would definitely be frightening, but yeah, sure, I'd give it a whirl. Why not?
Scurvy don't scare you a bit.
No, it doesn't. I like the scurvs. Okay.
That's a good
I'm just
attitude
kidding.
that you have.
Yarr. They arrived on Roanoke Island in the summer of 1587, where a brief argument broke out between the captain in charge of their sea travels and the governor, who was to oversee the mission on land. So White wanted the captain to take his colony further into the Chesapeake Bay, where he believed they would find more favorable living conditions. But the captain remained adamant in his decision not to take them any further.
So he's just like, let's go deeper. Maybe like we were saying, the coast will be better. Maybe there's more plentiful forest, game and things like. So they're instantly thinking about how can we get supplies, how can we start living off the land. Farmland has always been a big issue with settlers of this sort. So yeah, I see it from both perspectives. I guess the governor's kind of just like trying to find the best place to start the colony, and then the captain's like, yeah, this is
Get on my ship, boy. I'll be making the decisions, right?
Yeah, and the captain's just like, this is dangerous. The deeper you go in this bay, you might run aground.
Aground, yeah.
Yeah, so I see it from both perspectives.
When arriving at the Roanoke settlement, the colony found the place in ruins. They had experienced turbulence at sea that caused them to lose a large chunk of their food supplies. Unfortunately, they had missed the planting period that year, so their only hope was to send a message home and ask for more supplies.
Well, and that's another thing you didn't get. If you got support or anything from home, it didn't happen quickly.
This is a dire situation.
Yeah, it takes months to get the message back, and then they got to put it together, fund it, and then months for the stuff to get. So it could be, I'm not even sure what the crossing took then. But it could be a damn year before you get, support or help.
This adventure is definitely starting with like worst case scenario vibes, right? John White decided to set sail back to England and gather more supplies for the colony. Before leaving, he witnessed the birth of his grandchild, born to his daughter and her husband. White ordered the colony leader to leave a sign on the trees and houses to show that they had moved inland if they decided to do so. White only intended to be away for 2 months, but various forms of setbacks beset his return to Roanoke.
Wow.
Pirates.
So they made that crossing in a month or so. That's interesting.
2 months.
Yeah, but okay. Okay.
Pirates attacked his ship during his first attempt back, and he barely made it out alive with serious injuries. His next effort was halted when war broke out between Spain and England. Queen Elizabeth ordered that every ship in England be called upon to fight the Spanish Armada. The battle lasted for 3 years, and it wasn't until 1590 that White could sail again back to Roanoke.
Yeah, oftentimes the royals or the government would call upon these private ships, privateers, I believe may have been their title. And so it's like everything's working against this colony, like you said. It started out bad. You lose a bunch of your supplies on the way in. And then he goes back like, shoot, I'll shoot over and get some. You guys hold it down. And then literal wars breaking out between
3 years.
Yeah.
You were gone for 3 years. Talk about a detour. It's like Gilligan's Island, like a 3-hour tour, and then you're lost.
And he must have thought about the colony daily.
His wife, his children, his grandchildren. I mean, yeah, definitely. Upon arriving in Roanoke, John White found the settlement abandoned with no trace of the colonists. He and his new crew only found a new fort that had been erected, but abandoned. They only saw the word Croatoan inscribed into the wooden fence around the settlement. There was another island close by called Croatoan Island, and White believed that the people had moved there. In the hopes of finding his family again, White boarded his ship and departed for the island. But once again, Dylan, disaster struck along the way. This guy, I feel like, is cursed. Someone doesn't want things to go well for John White.
So you're thinking that he should not be the one that's supposed to wrap all this up?
Yeah, the universe doesn't want you to be governor, sir. His journey was again plagued with the instability of rough seas and dangerous weather conditions, which caused his ship to lose its anchor.
Oh man, you need one of those.
Definitely. Seeing the danger that lay ahead, he instructed. He didn't construct. Maybe he constructed a thought, but then he instructed the captain, Dylan, to abandon the search mission. White returned to England with his damaged ship, hoping to secure exchange and return another time. Sadly, he died 3 years later without ever seeing his wife, daughter, and granddaughter again. The whereabouts of all 112 people who arrived in Roanoke in 1587 remains a mystery over 400 years later.
So do you have any ideas what you think actually happened to the colony?
Aliens.
Okay. Fourth dimensional Sasquatch.
Yeah.
They came through the portals. They grabbed everybody. They were big fans of corn. Or wait.
Like the band?
They didn't have corn. They were big fans of flatbread.
Okay.
Or starch, sticky bread. Whatever fucking provisions the colony had. He's a big fan of it.
Some hardtack.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
That was it.
I've been playing Oregon Trail again.
Yeah, well, you're probably a lot closer than me. But, yeah, so, okay. Fourth dimensional Sasquatch. Good answer.
Okay. Well, before diving into the prevalent theories about their disappearance, it's necessary... I can't formulate words today. It is necessary to study the events that took place at Roanoke before White and his colony arrived on the island. Okay, Dylan, let's get into some of this. White was not the first adventurer to set foot on Roanoke. Before him and his group of settlers who had arrived there under the guidance of Ralph Lane, a family member of the Queen, who Sir Walter Raleigh had appointed in 1585. Lane led a military expedition to the island to determine its promise as a strategic base for England's military forces. The first few months after their arrival was joyful, as their relationship flourished with the local natives they had met on the island, and as time went on, the two groups started to clash over agricultural issues. This conflict led to a depletion of their supplies, causing them to go into survival mode. The battle intensified until it ended in a horrifying massacre of the settlers. By spring of 1586, Lane and his men decided to exit the island and return later. Sir Francis Drake's ship arrived at the Roanoke shores and sailed the men home to safety. Richard Grenville, who led the resupply mission to Roanoke, arrived on the island with his men to discover that Lane and his military entourage had departed in haste.
Ooh.
Before returning to England, Grenville appointed 15 men to look over the property and protect Raleigh's claim. During his time in England, Raleigh convinced White to take a group of colonists, the 112, and come with him to the island. This time they would go there with they would arrive with no military backup. That was part of the plan, so that the natives would see them as harmless and friendly neighbors.
Well, I guess that's an interesting. Someone was being semi-progressive, like, hey, if we don't show up and full force and be scary, maybe they won't react strongly to us being there. So let's come with a friendly handout and see how that happens.
I come in peace.
But at the same time, that takes guts too, because you've already had armed military men run off now see, it's funny, I wonder what the agricultural issues were. And I can imagine it's something like disagreements about how to do things or where to do it. And it just seems to me like you would just shut up and listen and follow the lead of the people who live there.
And who've been there.
Who've been living there.
Harvesting crops
successfully.
For hundreds of years.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but some people can't. I don't know that was the issue, but I could imagine it's something to that degree.
So you're saying some people can't cooperate? Men. Those people are men.
Some people can't cooperate
you mean some
with
people
men?
think they know everything? Men.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm guarantee it wasn't the women that were having the problem. It was men. Okay.
Some men.
It was men.
Well, see, the word "some" is missing now a lot of phrases nowadays, and I don't like to grossly generalize. So some men can't listen, and you know what?
I do when it comes to men.
Some women can't listen right now. Look, I'm just kidding.
Men. At Roanoke, they saw none of the 15 men alive. There were no bodies or traces of a battle or either a peaceful exit. The men seemed to have just vanished. Again, aliens. No one knows what happened to these men to this day. Investigators are more focused on the lost colony, so only a few people get to wonder about the disappearance of those 15. So, what happened to the second colony? Now, it is almost normal to have one missing person, right? Go vanish into thin air. So, one person, okay, not so crazy, but when a colony consisting of over 100 people disappear without a trace, one is left with head scratching theories about what might have happened to them. Do you have any theories, Dylan, besides aliens?
Well, I'm going to let's see. I think one of my strongest theories always were, for whatever reason, either out of fear or necessity, they left that area willingly. They packed up and left with what they did have, and tried to go somewhere else and make a go of it. Maybe because I'm sure part of being in a colony, you're going to scout. And you're going to, do some reconnaissance around your area. And if you find something that seems quite a bit more favorable, and you're not really having great luck here, right? It wasn't a thriving, bustling colony. It seems very plausible that you would pack everyone up and go to this other place and, give it a go.
The first theory was that the colony had succumbed to hunger, which caused their demise. The idea has some backing, since we know that White returned to England for the sole purpose of returning with supplies. He planned to stay away for mere months, but circumstances held him back in England. Now, obviously, the supplies at Roanoke would eventually run out, and the people would have started dying off one after another due to hunger. The problem with this theory, Dylan, is the lack of graves or bodies in the colony.
Well, see, that right there is a big problem for me.
At least the colonists would have left some grave markers around the area to signify the final resting place of their loved ones. Another popular theory to explain their disappearance is that neighboring natives attacked them. This theory seems plausible considering the attack and hostility that Ralph Lane and the first group of colonists faced from the natives that resided on the island. Maybe the natives had attacked the second group again shortly after White's exit. Some have claimed that the word Croatoan carved into the wood was meant to serve as a warning for other arrivals from England. They believe it was a message that revealed their attackers. However, Dylan, this theory falls flat because the tribe's chief, named Mateo, had followed the early arrivals back to England, where he met with the Queen, and he was baptized into the Church of England.
What?
So he returned with Sir Walter Raleigh and John White with a set of 112 colonists.
Their chief?
Their chief.
Wow. So it was almost like the chief is on a diplomatic mission.
Yes.
He goes all the way back to England, meets the Queen, all that, and then he's coming back. So I did not realize that fact right there. And so if you attack the colonists, they got our chief basically. Even if he left on semi-friendly terms. So, that's very interesting.
His friendship with the English wouldn't have given room for such an attack to occur. Also, there were no signs of attacks found in the settlement when White arrived in 1590. No damage to any of the structures whatsoever. Remember, he found a perfectly good fort that they had built.
That seemed abandoned willingly. Yeah, so even though it's been 3 years, that is quite some time, as far as you might not, if someone was to die and is laying dead on the ground there, in 3 years, their remains, given, wildlife and the elements, may not be so obvious, But you're talking over 100 people, which is quite a few people, and there would be some kind, you would think there would be some kind of damage visible. Either where the structure was partially burned or, obvious, even the kind of cliche arrows sticking out of the, one of the wood posts. I mean, just something. Unless I doubt the Indians would, if they were to attack and kill the settlement, I doubt they would clean up the scene to the point where, what would be their motivation for that?
They don't want luminol sprayed.
Yeah, they're like, well,
they're
no.
true crime fans.
And they would not take the lie detector.
They listen to our other podcast, Mountain Murders.
So, okay.
Surely there would have been signs of panic, chaos, and a bloody battle if they had been attacked, as you mentioned, Dylan. The funniest among these theories put forward by investigators is the subject of a mass alien abduction. I don't really think it's funny, but some people do. Now, some believe that the members of the colony had been abducted by aliens who were more advanced technologically. which makes sense to me. But this theory only remains a theory because it has no single piece of evidence to back it up, except that I agree with it. No, I'm just kidding. I really don't believe that the aliens took these people.
There's
It's silly.
it has almost as much evidence backing it up as the other theories.
Exactly. In recent years, people have come to accept the theory of immigration as the only reason for their disappearance. They believe that the people moved to lead peaceful lives among the Croatoan tribe. This would explain the lack of bodies or any sign of violence on the settlement. Then why did they simply carve the word Croatoan in haste instead of explaining their exit in detail? So indeed, they would have had access to a parchment and writing materials to document their itinerary.
Yeah, see, that theory I find very interesting and quite plausible.
But 3 years?
But
Parchment's not going to last in the weather for 3 years.
Well, here's the
Come on.
thing: not one of those 100 plus people ever returned, or like you. It seems like you'd have a detail. Hey, this is where we're going. Here's the map. Come find us. Make contact when you get back. I mean, someone would be wanting surely to still make contact back with England, or someone who's came back. So it seems like they would leave a small contingent there. And maybe, or I don't know.
Well,
it seems like you let them know where you went and why.
3 years is a long time, right? And times were different there. You didn't have a way to get word out. So after a period,
You could lose hope.
you could lose hope and believe that maybe White died, had a shipwreck. There was some issue. He's never coming back.
Yeah.
You just really are like a forgotten
So
colony.
And you just go on with your life. Live your natural life out.
Yeah.
That seems rather plausible. I mean, that seems like maybe possibly the most likely given all the evidence that we have.
But this theory honestly makes the most sense to me. Almost a decade later, some blue-eyed descendants of the Croatoan tribe were found speaking English and practicing Christianity. The tribe is known as the Lumbee tribe.
What?
And they are believed to be the descendants of the integration between the Croatoan tribe and the Roanoke colony.
Wow.
Now, Dylan, your paternal side of the family, your grandfather, he's from Robeson County, Bladenboro, right?
Yup.
And could possibly be Lumbee.
Oh, he definitely has just from you could look at him and he looked more Indian than he did, white. So yeah, definitely, and it was definitely in that area. So yeah, I would say that's exactly right.
I would like you to take a 23andMe or one of the DNA tests.
Oh, baby.
I just think it'd be interesting, right?
Yeah, we have threatened to do that and read the results on air. We should do that one day.
Yeah, we should. There were no further investigations or search expeditions after White's death, so no one knows what happened to the colony. The only people who can tell us what really happened at Roanoke in 1587 are the 112 people John White left to go and get supplies for. Sadly, all of them would be dead by now, without any trace of their history documented in a book. But there is a book called The Lost Colony and Hatteras Island by author Scott Dawson, and he details the Croatoan Archaeology Society's digs, 10 years of excavations led by the University of Bristol in England. And according to his book, historical evidence says Hatteras is where the colony went, but the truth remains a mystery.
Oh my gosh.
But I believe that they are more likely to have gone and lived among the Lumbee.
Well, I mean,
what became the Lumbee.
There seems to be the most evidence for that. I mean, and then blue-eyed, English-speaking, members of the Lumbee tribes turn up. I mean, shoot. Of course, some other colony could have been absorbed into. I'm sure they weren't the only colony, right?
Well, what's really interesting about the Lumbee tribe, of course, we do live in North Carolina. It is a state-recognized tribe here in our state. There are about 55,000 enrolled members. Most of them live in Robeson, Hoke, Cumberland, and Scotland counties. It is the largest tribe, state tribe, I should say, in North Carolina. And the largest state tribe east of the Mississippi. It's the 9th largest non-federally recognized tribe in the United States.
Oh.
So they are not a federally recognized tribe. And I don't know all the details of this, save for the fact that some of the folks that I've discussed this with, I have a few friends who are enrolled like ECBI members, and they're like, well, some of the issues with the Lumbee being a federally recognized tribe is like they don't have their own language.
Right.
Like a Lumbee specific language, which I guess is a big factor when you're looking at like being federally recognized.
That makes sense, I guess.
But it would make sense if they were integrated with the Croatoan and they were English speaking and Christian by this point in the late 1500s.
That they wouldn't have
they wouldn't have an official Lumbee language, right?
Vastly different culture than so that actually leads more credence to that possibly being what happened.
So they were recognized as a Native American tribe by United States Congress in 1956 under conditions that it agreed at the time, which did not allow them to have benefits available to other federally recognized tribes. 89% of the population of the town of Pembroke, North Carolina, identify as Lumbee, and about 40% of the Robeson County population identify as Lumbee.
Wow.
Pretty interesting, huh?
Yes, it is.
I actually want us to cover on Mountain Murders a couple of true crime cases out of Robeson County. There's been some speculation there could be a serial killer there. Yeah.
What?
The Lost Colony, man, this still is probably in my top 5 mysteries that if we could get, if you could choose like 5 mysteries.
I would put this on the list.
To have, the information, the knowledge, like what really happened. This is definitely in my top 5.
So it's like JFK, Roanoke.
I don't know about JFK.
You don't want to know?
Not really.
Or do you feel like you know?
I know.
I know, too.
Who was it?
The fucking government around
I
them.
believe it was the CIA.
The CIA, because he had already promised basically to destroy them over the Bay of Pigs debacle.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
It was the CIA.
We can talk.
We're gonna cover batshit crazy. It's in our future plans, Dylan. I have peeked into the crystal ball. I have read the tea leaves, and we will be covering the JFK assassination and the various conspiracies surrounding that.
Oh, my gosh, dude. We could do a big mega buster batshit crazy and talk about, we could do JFK.
You may end up with like a 2-hour episode.
Robert Kennedy. The woman in the polka dot dress. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah? Who's the woman in the polka dot dress?
She was seen running out of the hotel when Robert Kennedy was shot. Many witnesses that were debriefed or interviewed directly after the incident kept talking about this woman in the polka dot dress for various reasons.
People believe she's the assassin?
Well, or she was part of it. Holy shit.
Maybe she's like the shagadelic, sexadelic ladies of Austin Powers.
Oh, no.
And she has the booby guns.
Oh, my God.
And she was just like, pew, pew, pew.
Damn.
Right? And then she's running out of the
It could have been
hotel because her booby guns.
I'm sure.
Just like out of control.
I'm pretty sure that's what happened. They malfunctioned. They're just like shooting everybody.
I wish I had some booby guns.
I wish you would have big booby guns.
Yeah, I don't know if these boobies, there's room to carry around guns on these things.
That son bitch be chain fed, bud.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, all right. So that was our episode of Batshit Crazy. We're so happy to be back doing this again. We, if you can tell, we love to discuss mysteries, conspiracies, the weird, the paranormal. So we're going to keep this train going.
Although the aliens are a close second in my brain for what happened.
Well, you know what? People can be like, but hey, there's no evidence that it wasn't aliens.
Atlantis.
Right?
Aliens.
Well, don't get started about the network of roads under the sea that could be seen from space.
Exactly, the pyramids.
Oh, my God.
I recently watched Stargate with you the first time, and
Hey.
I don't like science fiction. I'm just going to float that out there. I'm not a sci-fi fan. It's just like, doesn't really pique my interest.
You might have
It's
watched
just
2
too
or 3
much.
sci-fi
I'm
movies
just
with
like,
me in 4 years.
Okay, yeah, I don't like sci-fi. It's just not my jam. I did watch Stargate with you. Very interesting. I feel like I could have done a better job with the script. So if you need a new screenwriter, call me.
No, but the concept.
But the concept was very interesting.
Yeah, it was. And hey, we can talk about Stargates, bud.
We will.
That could be the
Who
reason.
says that that's not on the list, Dylan? Hold on,
Jeez.
let me consult.
Look at her.
Yeah, it's on the list.
Oh my gosh, it could be the reason we went into Iraq because we wanted control of a Stargate. You know, the Middle East is so very important in historical terms and stuff.
There's something about it that's very mysterious.
Yes. Oh my, we can talk about ley lines, dude. I love this shit.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
We have all the time in the world, Dylan, to cover many subjects on Batshit Crazy. You don't want to miss a minute of it. Make sure you hit subscribe, download Batshit Crazy, and if you're feeling froggy, leave us a review.
Ooh, a nice little review.
All right, guys. We'll be back next Thursday with a brand new Batshit Crazy.
Thank you.
Until next time.